Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Clemson. We are located on the land of the Eastern Cherokee and Southern Iroquois. It's good to be here and to be with you. My name is Karen Hiebel, and I am the Director of Lifespan Faith Formation, and I will also be serving as your worship associate this morning. Each week, this community comes together to participate in worship, music, and reflection. This is where we seek to have our hearts open and our imaginations fired. This is the place that reminds us that we are deeply connected to one another and all living things. This fellowship is a religious community grounded in the heritage and principles of Unitarian Universalism. We seek to create a loving community, inspire joy and spiritual growth, and support courageous action. All are welcome, regardless of religious background, political persuasion, ethnicity, age, ability, sexual orientation, or gender identity or expression. If you have a desire to explore questions of truth and meaning and are respectful of our diversity of people and beliefs, you've found kindred spirits here. If you'd like more information about this fellowship or Unitarian Universalism in general, please see information about us on our website, UUFC.org. If you are interested in getting our weekly newsletter so that you can get connected to our community for online social events, our weekly sharing of joys and concerns, and our collective efforts to support local social justice work, please reach out to the office by email on our website or in the announcements on the back of our order of service. And I also like to extend a special welcome to any visitors we have this morning and to those of you who are joining us online. I would like to call your attention to some of the announcements. There's plenty of announcements on the back of your order of service, and I'd like to highlight a few. But at first, I would like to note that we have some changes to both our order of service and to our announcements this morning, so please bear with us. Today, there will be a ribbon-cutting ceremony and demonstration for the compost area behind the garage cans, which has been extensively rejuvenated with a new compost container, as well as a mushroom-growing area. Chen Fu Chen is spearheading the mushroom effort. The June 9th Lunch and Learn, sponsored by the Welcoming Congregation Committee, has been postponed until further notice. And I'd like to have a final note on our Children's and Youth Religious Exploration programming. We will be shifting to our summer schedule. Beginning next week, we will have no formal classes, but we will offer both a quiet reading space and a craft and activities area for children 12 and under. The nursery will remain open.
Thank you. I would like to also extend a warm welcome this morning. It's a joy to see so many of you on this rainy morning. And I am the Reverend Holly Brown. I am the settled minister here at the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Clemson. And I want to offer you these opening words for us this morning. On this day, as with so many Sundays, we come from the whirling world, the wind, the bright sun, the push and pull of the tides, and time from the tumult of global news and local stories, the pain we hear of, the demands of our spirit, the do this now culture that we live in. We come into this sanctuary from that windstorm, the rush of speeding drivers on the roadways, the rustling silence that fills our homes, the vastness of the once busy and perhaps now quieter house. All of this can leave us feeling stirred and unsettled when we give our attention to what's going on around and beyond us in this throbbing world we can feel windblown. We need places where we can come and find our grounding once again. Come in. Come in from the wind. Come in from the whirl. May this be a place where we can experience genuine stillness, even just for a moment. May this be a place that we can count on as we turn into our driveway, or as we turn on our computers for those at home, seeking our congregational home page, if you will. May we feel pulled into the restorative time of energetic peace. May this be a place of learning, of nourishment, for the dynamic beauty of this world. Come, let us worship together. And in that spirit of worshiping together, you are invited to rise in spirit or in body, whichever is more comfortable for you, to join in singing number 18, What Wondrous Love. Now is the time for lighting of our chalice, and I invite Joachim to come forward and light our chalice for us. And I will invite all of you to join in reading our fellowship's affirmation, which is found in our order of service. We gather together in the spirit of love, with justice as our guide. This is our chosen covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, and to care for one another.
This morning's story is from one of my favorite children's authors, Jacqueline Woodson. Her books are always filled with much wisdom and beauty. So this morning's story is The Year We Learned to Fly. That was the year we learned to fly. That was the spring when the rain seemed like it would never stop and the thunder boomed so hard we weren't allowed to go outside. Use those beautiful and brilliant minds of yours, my grandmother said. Lift your arms, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and believe in a thing. Somebody somewhere at some point was just as bored as you are now. So my brother and I closed our eyes, and for a few minutes that first day, we weren't stuck in our apartment anymore. We were flying over the city we'd known our whole lives, but it was suddenly different, exploding with every kind of flower we'd ever dreamed of growing. That was the summer we learned to fly, when my brother and I couldn't stop fussing with each other about whose turn it was to wash the windows, feed the dog, to clean the kitchen. We fought and we frowned and made silent promises to never speak to each other again. My grandmother said, lift your arms, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and stop being so mean about everything. Somebody somewhere at some point was just as mad as you are now. So we did. And as the soft wind took us out over the city and past the windows of kids who hadn't yet learned to fly, my brother and I reached for each other's hand, flying and diving and laughing and leaving all of our mad far behind us. That was the autumn our rooms felt too big and lonely with only us in them and the darkness coming on so fast. But while we hugged ourselves against the too quiet of it all, we remembered that we didn't have to be stuck anywhere anymore. My grandmother had learned to fly from the people who came before. They were aunts and cousins who were brought here on huge ships, their wrists and ankles cuffed in iron. But, my grandmother said, nobody can ever cuff your beautiful and brilliant mind. So our people learned to fly, she said. They dreamed a thing and made it happen, closed their eyes and flew away home. Lift your arms, my grandmother said. Close your eyes and remember, somebody, somewhere, at some point, had to figure out they could fly. That was the winter we moved away from the building and the block and the friends we'd always known, to a street where the kids looked at us funny and didn't even answer when we asked them if they wanted to play. It's okay, I said to my brother. Somebody, somewhere, at some point, had to figure out they were ready for any new thing coming their way. So, like the people who came before us, we lifted our arms even higher, closed our eyes even tighter, breathed in even deeper, and flew the way we'd always known how to. Free as the aunties and uncles and cousins who'd come before us, free as our own beautiful and brilliant minds. For a long time, the kids on the ground watched us. Then, one by one, they lifted their arms. One by one, they too learned to fly. This is the time set aside for the offering in order to give toward the financial vitality of this community. Also, 25% of the undesignated collection each week goes to an organization in the local community that we partner with. For the month of June, we are partnering with Ripple of One. You may also give by going to the UUFC website and using the donate button. There you will see options for paying with your pledge and donating towards the organizations we partner with. Thank you for your generosity. And children will be collecting canned goods as well.
Thank you for your generosity. We now have a special volunteer service spotlight by Melissa Berger
Thank you. Stop laughing. Hi. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Melissa Berger Afrigola. My pronouns are she and her. I am here today to talk to you about the RE program and the Welcoming Congregation Committee. I am chairperson of the RE program, and together with Karen Hiebel, I also co-chair the Welcoming Congregation Committee. In our religious exploration program, we strive to keep the contents of our weekly classes interesting as well as educational for all of our kids. This year so far, we have learned about the different cultures and religions around the world. You may have noticed all of the lanterns that were around for Lunar New Year. Those were all made by our kids in RE. They get to experience different foods, different traditions, different celebrations. So far, we've talked about Passover, we've done Seder, we've done Ramadan, and of course, our major favorite holiday that we've done this year is Holi. You might have also noticed a few months ago us coming in all different colored and laughing like crazy. It was really a whole lot of fun, and you can ask any of the kids. We'll be doing it again next year. We also work very hard on tying all of these holidays, all of these things that we talk about during the few minutes, literally, that we have in there with them, into our UU teachings and values. We ended the term this year discussing the time evolution of our principles and Article 2. Our plan, Karen and I, for the fall, hopefully, is to start UU 101, since we have a lot of new members that are coming in, and we'd like to go over that with all of our kids. Switching gears, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the Welcoming Congregation Committee. We are working very hard at moving us all into a more welcoming atmosphere for everyone who walks through the doors on a daily basis. Not just with our words, not with our posters, and not with our reaffirmations, but with our actions. You know what I'm talking about, like the little things we do on a daily basis for people. Asking people about themselves, asking them who they are, what are their interests, and how they feel. Listening to them, remembering them. Not just expecting that we know all the answers, because, let's just face it, most of the time we don't. Having more than just a plate of veggies when we do social time for our vegetarian and vegan friends. And of course, my biggest favorite is having gluten-free and dairy-free product options, as well as cookies and cakes, because I know Steve and I are not the only gluten-free, dairy-free members of this congregation anymore. Both of those committees have an excellent group of people. Karen and I are lucky enough to enjoy these people that serve with us, and we want to say thank you for that. We are all working very hard at aspiring to make this place what we want our UUA to be. But here's the part y'all been waiting for now. We can't do it alone. But we can. It's going to take a little bit longer, and it's going to be a little bit harder, but let's face it, it's a heck of a lot more fun when we have friends to do it with. So, there are some simple things that you can do with us. I'm not asking you to come and volunteer. I'm asking you to do little simple things, like setting up a good example. Bless you, sneeze to the truth, thank you very much. Setting a good example with unspoken actions. This is a huge contribution to RE and to our guests. You can volunteer to help us with events if you choose to, that we table at outside in our community and that we're planning to do outside in our community, or when we have events here. A big, huge help would be when we do special events, coming to game night when we schedule them, coming to the movies, showing up and supporting the work that we do as the RE and as the Welcoming Congregation. If you think you have something interesting to explore with the kids that you might like to do, Come to Karen and myself, or myself. If you'd like to spend a little time with the kids in the classroom, we'd love to have you. Some of our members already have, and we want to thank you for that. And they have in the past, and that's been great. If it fits with our curriculum, we'd love to have you in there, and I know that you guys would enjoy it as well. It's really gratifying. Because I'll tell you, I'll never forget a few years ago the day Meg MacArthur and I walked out of a class at the end of the class. One of the kids turned around, high-fived me, and said, "Best class ever." That was an amazing feeling. Or the day a parent turned around, came to me, and thanked us for treating their child as who they are and not trying to fit them into the box that the rest of the places try and do. It's a rewarding time, so come on in. Get involved. I promise it's not hard. I promise we don't bite. And the one thing I can promise you is with the group of people that we have, you will have fun. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mel. This is a time during our service that we share deeply of our joys and concerns. This is a sacred sharing, reminding us of our connections in this community with the knowledge that we are not alone. So I've asked Karen to place a stone for each of the many joys and concerns today into the shared vessel which represents this community of caring. We have a joy from Audrey that last week was her birthday and she turned 9. Happy birthday. Have a joy from Martha Alexander that on May 25th, Martha and Jim traveled to Burt County, North Carolina to attend Martha's 67th year Salem High School reunion. And Andy Nelson wishes to share a joy or announcement that the Chachuga begins in Chautauqua. I'm sorry. You told me that beforehand, and I still got it wrong. So the Chautauqua begins in Greenville next week. They'll have Charles Dickens and Mama Cass, and it's a great opportunity to see performances representing historical figures. Have a joy from Paula and Jorge that we're playing a new gig this afternoon in Walhalla at from 3 to 5 p.m. at Trailhead Tavern and Restaurant. The best music is at the beginning, so come early. Meg Williamson shares that it'll be great joy if lots of people show up for the workday on Saturday, June 8th. It'll be from 8:30 to 12 with a pizza lunch afterwards. The choir shares a joy that we are happy to have Susan Clay back with us. Yay. We have a joy or concern from JB that he and Joachim are training for JV football at Daniel, and we need to help raising some money, so please help if you can. Have a note from Karen Sanders that there's a need for a couple of people to help with hospitality next week. And a little bit of a repeat of the announcement from Susan Pierce that we'll be having a ribbon cutting ceremony for the new compost pile and mushroom area today near the end of social hour. We have a joy from Melissa Berga Afagola that thank you to all that joined us yesterday. I think we had 11 people that came for our first CPR AED training. And a huge thanks to the NOLA Network for their help for their training. And you can learn more information about NOLA in the social room. But I just want to note that also gratitude for Melissa for helping get our AED equipment through the grant process that she helped with. Yes. And we do have a couple of concerns, and I invite you to hold these in your heart for a moment. Renee Mendola shares a concern that her mom is out of the hospital but has now been placed on hospice. She is at her home, and please send good thoughts. They're welcome. And I wish to share that the reason our Lunch and Learn has been postponed is that one of the two speakers that we planned to have was killed in a fatal car crash on Friday morning. Eric Child's loss will be felt by his family and the larger community, and the work that he was planning on doing running for public office. And we place one more stone in this vessel, representing all of the joys and concerns that remain unspoken and that remain quiet and tender upon our hearts this morning. One of the changes that we have this morning shifts our mood a little bit. And so I'm wanting to do that gently. But we have RE happening this morning, which is different than we planned. So we're going to invite you to sing our children out, even though that's not in the order of service, with Go Now in Peace. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. You are now invited into a spirit of prayer and meditation, invited to kind of settle into where you are. Spirit of life, both within and around us, be present to our collective yearning for renewal in this moment. Life has become super lifey these days, with the demands and pressures of jobs and roles, the tugs of the heart of people and places we miss and long for, the ways that when so much is asked of us, we crumble just a little bit more each day under the weight of it all, with soul-crushing, devastating news and updates from around the world and in our own communities. The loved ones in our lives hurting and struggling, the ways that we are hurting and struggling. Spirit of life, we pause to acknowledge the many challenges of life and send love and care within and without in the world. We pause to honor and hold space for the struggles we experience in our bodies and in our spirits, and send love and care to those tender places. We pause to receive the abundant mystery and grace, the power of love that is greater than ourselves to heal and nourish us. We call upon the transcendent gifts of renewal to bestow upon us, for the energizing renewal to fill us in all the ways that serve our lagging spirits when our own restlessness wanes, when our own resilience wanes. We give thanks and gratitude for the sweetness of renewal so that it may linger in us, be amplified and multiplied towards healing and wholeness. In the name of all that is hopeful and holy, may it be so. We now invite the choir to perform a special selection for us.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. This one sounds good.
Test. Test.
Okay.
Thank you, that was beautiful. There's a lot of disagreement about how to frame the last century's unprecedented increase in human lifespan. Is it a crisis or an opportunity? Experience and ideology shape the responses, of course. Ask most people if they want to grow old, and they say yes. A qualified yes, that is, as long as I've got my health. That's shaped by more than genes and behavior. The beliefs we've assimilated about the nature and value of old age, how ageist we are, in other words, also play an important role. A growing body of evidence shows that attitudes towards aging have an actual, measurable physical effect on how we age. There's no inherent reason for the effect to be negative. Positive attitudes improve mental and physical function. But an ageist culture like this one equates aging and decline. Prejudices are drummed into us by the media and popular culture and go unexamined. Over the last few decades, mainstream medicine has come to accept the existence of a powerful mind-body connection. Clinical trials have shown that psychological factors can play a major role in illnesses and chronic conditions, and that mind-body therapies can help people function better and enjoy life more. Obviously, aging isn't just a mindset, but it is increasingly apparent that attitudes are an important part of the equation. The way we internalize cues in the environment, as abstract as the way older people are depicted in the media, or as concrete as that emerging bald spot, significantly affects our physical and psychological trajectories. Yale University professor Becca Levy's theory of stereotype embodiment has 4 components. Age stereotypes become internalized across the lifespan. Kids are exposed to negative stereotypes in all kinds of ways, from ads for wrinkle cream to children's books. They're effective because the messages aren't directed at kids who feel no need to defend against them. This lays the groundwork for thinking of oldness as less privileged and older people as other. Age stereotypes can operate unconsciously. For example, after being exposed to negative terms, for example, Alzheimer's, decline, dependent, senile, confused, decrepit, incompetent, diseased, older subjects did less well on memory tests, evidence that stereotypes affect cognition. Age stereotypes become more relevant as we get older, and thus more likely to become self-fulfilling prophecies. Age stereotypes operate in multiple ways: psychological, those self-fulfilling prophecies; physical, via responses to stress, measured by changes in blood pressure and skin conductance. Changes were negative in people exposed to negative age stereotypes, and positive when the cues were positive. Behavioral. People with negative self-perceptions around aging were less likely to engage in healthy practices, like having regular checkups, controlling weight and diet, and exercising. The reverse is also the case. People with higher baseline positive self-perceptions of aging also showed lower risk and later onset of both respiratory and heart disease. These effects work in both positive and negative directions. People with more positive feelings about aging behave differently from those convinced that growing old means becoming useless or helpless. Those with more positive views actually live longer, an average of 7.5 years.
As we enjoy these shady trees our elders had from saplings grown, for those to come we plant our seeds that they may reap what we have sown. In gratitude we build upon the firm foundations of the past, with love and service as our guides. We know our legacy will last. We can give only what we have, our time and skills, small though they be. May not our effort be in vain, but help to build community of kindred souls, all threads in life's great tapestry.
Sorry. That was loud. And in the process of getting up, I lost my page. So here we are. All right. Y'all are going to bear with me while I find where I'm supposed to be, right? All right. So, before you came into this service, I want to ask you, I'm going to ask a question that we can frame in a yes or a no, a head nod or a hand raise of, throughout your life, has your idea of what age or perhaps aging changed? Yes. Yeah? You know, some of you may be familiar with the cultural adage at one point of, not to trust anybody over 30. But once those people reached over 30, I'm sure that changed quite a bit, right? But as we go throughout our lives, our understanding of how we engage our mind, our bodies, our well-being, can change quite considerably. And so this can affect us at any age, whether we are the youngest child or the oldest member. So, youngest child, I think, Victor, your granddaughter is what, 2? 3, almost 3. And we have Mary Alice Mayberry that's at home usually. She may or may not be watching us today. She's 105 this year. So we have a pretty significant age range, don't we? So within our congregational spaces, there's studies that were done, and I remember this in seminary, so our understanding might have changed post-pandemic, but that churches, fellowships like this one, are one of the few places that remain multi-generational. That in schools, people are divided into their age ranges. Even in work, there's, you might have somebody that's maybe 10 years younger or 10 years older than the cohort that you're working with. But there's much less interaction between the different generations outside of spaces like this. And so one of the things that I found really powerful when I was in search, and anybody on the search committee can probably attest to my bringing this up, is that in your congregational record, it said that your children and youth remain in service through the time of joys and concerns. But why is that? Do y'all know? It's because one of the kids said they wanted to. How awesome is that? That you heard from one of your kids and said, okay, they want to be here for this. They also help with collection of our food goods and lighting our chalice. Y'all are being intentional about how you engage the children and youth in this congregation. And that's one of the things that stood out to me and that I remarked on during my interview process. And this idea of talking about age came to me when thinking about renewal, because I just recently had finished a book called This Chair Rocks, a manifesto against ageism. And the reading that you heard Karen share is something from her work, but also there's so much that she shares in that book that I found just fascinating. But thinking about age, and that somebody that's hitting what's considered historically middle age around the age of 40 or thereabouts, although middle age is shifting as people are living longer. But that idea of middle age sometimes hits people harder than reaching 80, which was kind of fascinating. But she also mentioned that if you lined up, let's say 170-year-olds, their difference in the way they see the world, the difference of ability or disability is going to affect each of those people. Some you might not recognize as 70. You might either think they're older or younger, because the ways in which we live and our genetics affect so much. But when we have community that can slow the effects of aging, it can reconfigure how we think about ourselves and provide us an opportunity to interact with people of many different ages. And while some of our UU congregations are trending towards older, we do still have young folks, our children, our youth that are coming to services. And this congregation is making an effort to make sure they feel welcome. And I hope that everybody, regardless of what your number age is, can feel welcomed in this space. Maybe it is having events during the day for those that can't drive at night, or having events at night or on the weekend for those that are working during the day. But having multiple opportunities for engagement is so important. And, excuse me, disrupting our stereotypes can be important too, because I've embodied a stereotype and maybe kept me from doing something that was really, really helpful. I have been partially deaf in my left ear since I was born. So many of you probably know that I have one hearing aid, have probably heard me say something about that. But I've gotten that hearing aid in the last year. I spent 40 years being partially deaf and moving around in the world, struggling. I even had somebody get mad at me one time when I was younger, working in history museum field. They thought I was ignoring them and assumed because I was young, I didn't have a visible hearing aid or a cochlear implant, I didn't use sign language, that she just assumed I was being rude rather than having a hearing deficit that I hadn't accommodated. And at least part of that is because when I went to an audiologist as a teenager, they didn't recommend a hearing aid at that time. Now, there could be a multitude of reasons. Hearing aids have changed a lot in the last 20 years. I was a teenager, maybe there was a thought that I wasn't going to use it properly. There was also a statement made, or what I remember at least, is that I had good hearing in one ear, so it wasn't as necessary. But I got to tell you, my balance is better. My understanding of people, I feel like my brain is less foggy because I can actually hear people. And before getting the hearing aid, when I was here for my candidating week, anybody that was in the room when I met with the board and the search committee that very first night and witnessed Carl Dieter and myself, both with hearing issues, do this kind of dance around the room because we kept shifting and trying to hear one another. And sometimes recognizing that we need assistive technology, whether it is a hearing aid, whether it is using a cane or a walker or a wheelchair at different points in our lives, can help make a difference in how we feel. Now, it's not easy, especially at first. If any of you were here when my dad visited or for the installation, he has had to use a crutch or has started using a rollator more. And this has been a journey for him for over 20 years since his initial back injury and nerve damage. And he had to relent after several falls to using a cane or a crutch consistently. But it has allowed him to keep going, to keep moving, to keep engaging in congregational life as a minister, as a retired minister. It has allowed him to still have community, to make wooden crosses in his wood shop, to garden, and he still tries to get out there, to my mother's stress, to do things in the yard, like yard work or weed eating. We've tried to convince him that the weed eating we might need to leave to somebody else. But the ways in which we find renewal can be found in community. It can help us live richer, healthier lives, no matter how old we are. And as Mel mentioned during her spotlight earlier, we've got some really awesome kids and young people. If you hadn't had a chance to hang out with them, I tell you what, they are an opportunity for some renewal. And they definitely have us on the technology, right? I read something recently about a young family, maybe like a 7, 8-year-old and a 4 or 5-year-old, and the older child had been doing something on the computer and somehow messed something up, lost something. And the parent tried to come in and fix it, but it was that 4 or 5-year-old that came up to the computer, typed some keys, and magically made it okay again. So sometimes utilizing those around us that have different skills and different abilities can help form that richer, renewed community. I just want to mention that one of my goals has been to do a sermon more extemporaneously and remember what I want to say. And so far today, I haven't moved my notes. And I guess in a test of my own cognitive abilities, unbeknownst to my initial planning, I wanted to share these stories. And it is so much easier to share stories sometimes than all of the facts and figures. And so I'm thankful for Karen for reading that longer piece that talks about that formal information so I could focus on our stories about how we are connected in community, recognizing that there is a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of experience that we can share with one another. And that is the beauty of community, that we can be here intentionally together to share, whether it is, I see at least 2 people knitting in the room, and I find that such a joy to see. And I have the habit of doing that when I visit other congregations. So we also have people that need to move and to move in the space differently, whether it is a difference of abilities or neurodiversity and feeling the need to move and fidget and engage differently. And we can make space for one another to do those things. And so I invite you to be intentional about having a conversation with somebody. Maybe somebody you haven't talked to before. Maybe somebody that is, visually at least, a different age than you are. And just chat, get to know one another if you don't already, because that's how we build community, that we can find that renewal. So I invite you to move out into the world with a renewed sense of being, to find nourishment in this community and the other communities that you connect to. May it be so. May we make it so. And blessed be. And our closing hymn is number 364, Come Sing a Song with Me. And the slides will be up, or you can look in your hymnal. As you leave today, may you go with hope. May you dream a dream together. May you seek to know one another. Go in peace and return in love until we are together again.